Welcome to the Good Soil Home with myself, Loyla Louvis, certified parenting and life coach. Today, you will learn how to create a rich environment for family connection, replace poor habits that sabotage potential, tune into your family's best conditions for growth, and move from frustration to clarity in the mom journey. We all start with a dream, a sweet family connection, right? Love, laughter, and a life directed toward growth and maturity. But the typical day is often hijacked. A sick child, an unexpected phone call, a bad attitude, and so much more. It's exhausting. A new reality sets in, leaving us to wonder if we've got what it actually takes to raise a family of good character. The typical home environment is often filled with overwhelm, insecurity, comparison, and doubt. In a child, this starts to produce or look like resisting harder, complaining louder, clamming up, or melting down. In mom, it starts to look like yelling louder, feeling desperate, becoming the mean mom that nobody wants to be, or simply giving up. My name is Loyla Louvis. As I said, I'm a parenting and life coach for mothers in training. I have a background as a columnist for the Montclair Local News, elementary school teacher, a home education advocate for over 21 years, very much pro customized home schooling. And I'm a mentor mom for MOPS International. And last but not least, an instructor for the Rooted Cafe. But most importantly, I'm a mom, married for 27 years to my wonderful husband. I've got 4 grown kids, been walking with the Lord for over 30 years. But my parenting experience started out with a promise to myself. I was going to be the mom I always wanted to be. I was going to fix the mistakes that were made in my own childhood. And yet, as a mom, I was overwhelmed with exhaustion, frustration, disappointment, low confidence, and self doubt. And it really ate away at who I was, who I wanted to be, and the environment at home. I understood my responsibility, but felt confused about how to accomplish it, right? Execution. It always comes down to execution. We can have the best ideas, the best knowledge, and yet execution is a whole nother story. But what I learned, I want to share with you, and that's the good news, right? That you can thrive as a wise woman cultivating rich soil for the seeds of good character at home. Even if you're currently unsure, lack confidence, or can't seem to get everyone on board with your mission. It's not easy, but it's simple and it's doable. Let's jump right in to point number 1, the nurturing window of time and space. We're going to pack a lot into this particular point. You can cultivate your home soil using the element of time. But understand it is your greatest limited resource. Nobody, not a single person, not ever has had more than 24 hours in a day. We all get the same little window of time to use. So the key is, how do you maximize it? How do you use time strategically? Time opens a window full of opportunity, but it closes just as quickly to make room for the next season. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. So, what is your relationship with time? Is it your friend or is it your foe? Do you love this window of time, or are you fighting against it, right? Are you collaborating, or are you in conflict, resisting, fighting time, never flowing smoothly with the course of time in your day, those 24 hours? Is time a blessing or a curse for you? I want to give you a simple action step, what you can do with time. Casual conversations allow the family to decide together what to do with this current window of opportunity. And I'm going to stop here to unpack this idea for you. If you look at where you are, this is a lovely exercise to do personally and collectively with the family. When you look at where you are currently in the whole parenting journey, in the vision you have, the goals and the mission you have for your family, this is your starting point. If if you were to draw a timeline on a piece of paper with a point being now and a line with another point, a final point of your destination, what the family wants to achieve, what they want to be like, look like, feel like, accomplish, have as an identity and a internal curriculum. What does that finished product look like by the point that you are hands-free? You've done your job as a mom and as a woman, as a wife, and you have accomplished your goals. You can end your life saying, no regrets. I accomplished, I did, I tried, I was on point, right? So the beginning where you are now, that final point where your hands free, and then all the little dots in between that get you there. Becomes a timeline, almost like the little inch marks on a ruler. So where are you right now? What is this season of life? What needs to happen right now to set you up for success in the next season that's coming? If you have little ones, right, the next season is the beginning foundational years of education. If you have children in the elementary educational years, the next stage is the pre-teen, teen years, right? You can break that entire journey down into whatever windows of opportunity that you acknowledge, that you see, that you recognize are coming. What then break it down into even smaller increments until you reach the place where you know what you have to be working on right now to keep setting yourself up for momentum and progress and success with all the little micro steps of the journey. But that process is best done in beautiful conversation with the family. When everyone is on the same page, you're working together as a team, and there's much less conflict, frustration, and friction. You're cultivating the soil for rich growth in communication, in vision, in planning. Okay, let's move on to the next portion. Now, we've talked about time. What can you do with space? You can cultivate your home soil using the element of space. It is your greatest limited quantity commodity. You can't make more space than what you have. And this is complex, right? Let's unpack this. Space is defined as an area which is free and available. And in terms of this conversation, it is space that is dedicated for the purpose of growth, maturity, and freedom. When you think of a garden, when you're planting a seed, you have to make room. You have to leave room for the eventual growth that that seed requires. Without planned space, we run into all kinds of problems we'll talk about in a moment. So let's look at internal space, the inside you, right? Do you have a defined fill line? I can handle this much and no more. Do you have occasional room to take in more, or are you filled to overflowing, so overwhelmed, so filled that anything that happens outside of your expectation creates overwhelm, creates friction, dysregulation? Internally, we're talking about being able to handle and contain emotions. our own emotions and the emotions of our children. And we'll talk more about that too. And then there's external space. What does your external home space look like? Are there defined places for things and activities, or is it undefined and things just sort of happen where they happen? Are there environments that are soothing and calm, or is every space busy? Maybe you have a large family, maybe you have a limited space. What does your external space within the walls of your home look like? Is there personal space for each member of the family? Something that reflects their character, their wishes, their wants, their style? Or is it generic? Every room, every space sort of just looks the same, very functional, with nothing personal. We're going to unpack this next. So, a simple action step. What can you do with your space? We're talking about designating and creating a personalized, calm down space. This is the focus of our conversation on space, is the emotions that come with space, not only in the home, but in your soul. Let's talk about this for a moment. There are simple, doable action steps you can take to create containers, to create a vessel that can hold. The thing about being a woman, the thing about being a wife and a mother is that we are global thinkers. There is so much happening, and we really do have a hand, our finger on the pulse of so much. And that requires internal space to hold all of this. It becomes emotional. There are feelings attached to thoughts and ideas and people and relationships and situations. What does your internal space look like? First, for yourself, the visual of the glass of water with the liquid, with the water being poured in. Is there room in your cup for your own emotions to process, to digest, to grab hold of the value in whatever experiences you're going through, whatever emotions you have, and then flush the rest? Is there a process to allow that process to happen internally for yourself? And then for the emotions and needs, attention that the family requires, that the children require. If we are so flooded, so much is coming in all the time with no ability to process and flush, we're not going to have room to show up well for our children, for the people we love, for our spouses. And that is reflected in the home. And external space. I like to offer the idea, I love visuals, of like a gym. If you've ever walked into a gym, you know that there's a circuit. There are areas for certain activities to happen. And when you walk into the gym, you can easily scan the room, find the activity that feels just right for you, and go there and do that activity. And when you're done, when it feels stale, when you're tired and exhausted, you can step away and find another area. We love choices, but we also don't like to have to think too hard. We want things to be easy and simple and grabbable and doable. And although that's not always possible, you can create momentum and really get the ball moving in your own home by creating a circuit, just like the gym. Certain designated spaces for certain activities. Now, getting back to emotions, we actually need a space, a designated space to handle uncomfortable emotions. And that space looks different for each person in the family. Have you ever had a conversation? This is so fun. Have you ever had a conversation with a child, with your child, saying, when you're feeling uncomfortable, when you feel big, strong emotions, Do you need a space? Would you like a space where you can go and just feel better? Because what we want ultimately is all of us in the family to be able to pool our best selves, to bring our best selves to the table, to offer all of our passions, our gifts, our talents, our personality, our ourselves to the table. But there are moments when we need privacy, when we're not ready to be with other people, when we need to just process and digest and be alone. And it's not just in the bathroom, right? It's emotionally, we need that privacy, that space where we have what we need and we can process, digest, and flush out. And for each child, that space looks different. Do you have designated spaces in your home, just like the gym circuit? This allows everyone to kind of feel fresh. When things get stale in one environment, you can move to your next environment and the room feels good. The energy feels fresh. You feel rejuvenated. You have purpose in that space. And yet, when you can't handle that, you have a quiet emotional space to process. Okay, moving on to our next point. Point number two, a favorable environment for growth. We're talking about curiosity. You can cultivate your home soil using the element of curiosity. It is the greatest fertilizer for growth. Curiosity is defined as a strong desire to know and learn. And the wise woman explores all the ways her child ticks. We're talking about a woman's curiosity about her own children, about her spouse, about the people in her home, putting on that lens, a scientific lens. And we'll unpack that shortly. But first, what is your relationship to curiosity? Is curiosity celebrated? Do you tap into your own curiosity and fuel it and fire it and celebrate it, or you dismiss it? You're too busy. You don't have time to be curious. Is it planned? Do you create opportunities to kindle and fuel your curiosity, to watch, to learn? Or is it accidental? You just sort of stumble into observations and awarenesses and new understandings and insights. Is it planned or is it accidental? And then finally, is it leveraged? Are you mentally, spiritually, psychologically storing away in your treasure box all of your observations, all of your insights, all of your curiosities, and then maximizing that, putting it to good use, right? Knowing your child better with that information? Or is it untapped? You're gathering insights and awarenesses and making observations, but you're not putting them together to create new understandings, new insights. You're not letting that information, maybe you're not letting it change the way you speak to your child or the way you interact or the timing of when you interact. There are so many examples of ways that we can use this information, we can leverage this information as we embrace our curiosity. So here's a simple action step for curiosity, what you can do with curiosity. Depending on the child's age, spend more time observing than doing. So here we have an example of a child doing a chore. Mom's right next to her. But is mom simply directing her child in how to clean the window? Is mom busy cleaning the window because her child isn't really doing the job well? Or is mom being curious, watching? We're going to talk about this right now. Learn more by being curious. Okay, so let's unpack this. What I want to suggest to you is that in your efforts to create rich soil for seeds of good character, Mom needs to put on her scientific lens and observe her child in every knowledge is power. How often do we say and do things to accomplish a goal that aren't working? And we end up butting our heads, saying things over and over, doing things over and over, getting loud, acting in ways we don't really want to act because we want something done and we're trying to push a square peg in a round hole, right? It's exhausting, it's frustrating, it's not working because we're not taking advantage of the information. We're not putting on our scientific lens and watching how our children tick. What energizes them? What depletes them? What excites them? What repels them? What words work? What words are not working? What are we giving up? What are we giving up in the relationship to get something done? Because maybe we're not watching and learning and processing that information to discover, how does that child tick? How do I communicate and interact and engage with this child? Maybe they're a morning bird. Maybe they're a night owl. Maybe I'm asking for certain things to be done at the wrong time of the day. I talk about this in my workshop, Routines and Time Management for Kids. There, it's like a lock. Do you remember those locks where you had to know the combination? And if you didn't put in the right combination, that lock would not open. Children are like a lock with a combination. And each one opens up in a very unique way. I want to encourage you to spend more time observing, even when things aren't going your way, even when your child is resisting you. Watch more, slow down and look and listen. Ask questions, interact, do an experiment to yourself, right? What happens if I do X? How does my child respond? Okay, let me try Y. Keep trying. Jot those things down somewhere. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you as we move back to our next point. Let's look at point number 3, the necessity of dormancy. You can cultivate your home soil using the element of dormancy. It is your greatest underrated strategy. There are so many things we could talk about, so many different points, different strategies and ideas for cultivating the soil at home. But I want to grab hold of some that maybe aren't so popular, maybe aren't so thought of, maybe aren't on our radar so much. And dormancy, I think, is one of them. Dormancy means temporarily slowing down in unfavorable conditions. For the sake of this conversation, it is with the intention of protection and eventual new growth. I want you to think of the seasons of the year and the leaves on the trees and what nature teaches us about seasons of dormancy. The wisdom in temporarily slowing down in unfavorable conditions. We tend to feel guilty. What is your relationship with dormancy? Do you feel guilty for slowing down, or do you welcome a season of dormancy? Do you welcome an opportunity to just settle down, breathe, conserve your energy, have less expectations on yourself and your family? Remember, in unfavorable conditions, there is wisdom in changing up. Is it welcomed or rejected? Is it planned or unplanned? Can you foresee seasons of undesirable conditions in which you have a plan to slow down, to do less, Or is it unplanned where your body just shuts down? You're mentally, you just shut down. It just happens to you and your family. And then there's feelings of disappointment, discouragement, feeling like a failure or guilty. All of those negative feelings come in when it's unplanned. And finally, is dormancy valued? Do you do you prize this season? When we look at nature and we look at the seasons, we look at the trees, they drop their leaves, they let things go. They pull down their nutrients and bury down deep. It's a form of strength, it's a form of wisdom. Do you value dormancy or is it undervalued? Maybe you have not thought about it. Maybe you don't know what to do in your dormancy. Maybe you haven't thought about the wisdom and or what you can do during that season that's valuable. A simple action tip for dormancy, what you can do in your dormancy is give purpose and meaning to your slowing down. Dormancy is an important season in the life cycle. Let's talk about that. Dormancy. Do you slow down? Do you have a plan for undesirable times, times that are not conducive to getting a lot done? Again, thinking of seasons of the year, the winter, your winter season. Do you have a plan? In my workshop, Routines and Time Management, we have schedules, plug and play schedules. We call them the rainy day routine. We have one for boys and one for girls, and a master routine that you can sit together at the table and make up your rainy day routine so that it's plug and play, asking questions such as, what's fun to me? What's relaxing to me? There are so many different plug and play schedules in routines and time management that sort of kind of help nurture this idea of planning for dormancy. Do you have a plan, a plug and play plan that allows you to feel good about those seasons when you just need to pull back, drop your energy, like leaves on the trees, let things go? But you've got a busy household. You can't just let things run amok. That's not conducive to good soil either, right? So have a plan. Your circuit, right? We're going back to our prior points of space and time. All of these things work together. We're cultivating the soil, bringing strategies together so that the soil is rich. Okay. In summary, it's going back to, let's look at the summary. Make a plan together for this open window in time. Your timeline, think of the ruler. Strategically plan what to do now to set yourself up for success for the next season and window of opportunity. Let's look at space. Make internal space. Think of the glass filled with water. You need room in your cup, in your vessel, in your container for those big emotions, yours and others. And external space to define those personal safe zones. Think of the gym circuit, particular spaces with particular activities that keep things fresh and moving and allow for customization when we just need that little quiet time to be away from everyone and regulate our own emotions. Next is curiosity. Cultivate curiosity by observing more than doing. Think of the scientific lens. You're doing experiments, you're learning, you're watching more than you're doing, depending on the age of your child, right? A toddler, obviously, you have to be hands on at all times, but that does not prevent you from watching and experimenting and learning. And then finally, Embrace the purpose of dormancy as an important part of the life cycle. There are winter seasons. I want to leave you with this quote: "The quality of your soil determines the health of what grows." It's so true. A seed is a seed. You have a seed, you know what will spring forth from that seed. But whether it grows big and lush and healthy, whether it's prone to disease, whether it sprouts and then withers, or it sprouts and blossoms, has a lot to do with the soil. So consider the soil in which you plant your seeds. I want to thank you for watching The Good Soil Home. For more information, you can reach out to mothersintraining.org.